Yes. Just waiting for the space to start. Dude, guys, I'm figuring some stuff out about locking. I just discovered something this morning. I'm excited to share with you guys. You give me some FOMO over locking, man. For mega rewards. Mega rewards. There we go. Join. Yes, please. Present. Good morning.
Good morning.
How's it going?
It's going. Just putting this in the chat right now.
Are you rested after yesterday's activities with 2 streams?
The day before we did a VT and a stream too.
Yeah. Yes, let's not be that busy. We need to be, I want to be busy. We want to be busy, but perhaps not back to back like that. And on top of that, you had kind of a rough work week as well.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I think it was worth it. The charts are looking good.
Yes. Crypto Stylist is in the chat. Hi, Crypto Stylist. Yeah, guys, pile in. Did you see my tweet? If you guys, I'm all pumped up about a new discovery I made this morning. If you guys want to go to my Twitter, it's on Twitter. I don't know. Have you seen it?
I have not. I haven't even really scrolled through Twitter yet today.
All right.
I'll pull you up and see, or unless you want to read it.
Well, I can just tell you the essence of it, and I will pull it up. But here's the thing: we've got that 1 million pTGC in a 10-year lock for a year now. It is earning like 868 pTGC every day, and no, every month. So you can backward math and figure out how much pTGC was unlocked per month to garner 868 pTGC for 1 million pTGC. You got to figure out its percentage of the total locked pTGC. Do you want to venture a guess how much has been unlocked on average per month?
And you're making the assumption that the exact same amount of people are locked that are locked today for the whole entire year?
Yes, that is an assumption too.
Okay, because obviously I think it's been increasing. So in the early days, it might have been less people unlocking, but you were getting more percentage of it.
Okay.
But I do get your experiment. Gosh. Is it, you say a week? How much is unlocking a week?
Per month.
Per month?
Yes.
Is it, gosh, I might be so wrong. That's kind of the problem. Is it a whale position every single month?
It's not a whale.
Okay. What is it?
I'm having too much fun over here, Zen. It's a shark position. 394 million unlocked per month. 395. Yeah, 395 million if you rounded it up. 395 million pTGC is being early and locked, paying penalties to all the other lockers. So what you can do is go into, and I should be sharing my screen. You can go take that number and go into the locking calculator that is free on the Look Into pTGC site. And you can enter your locking position, and then you can put in today's price or any price you want, and it will tell you how much you would earn per month, I think. Let me have a look at this.
Yeah, if you put it in that shark position, right? That's a great idea. And then you kind of are projecting out based on past history what you could be receiving in your locking rewards in the future at different prices.
Right. So let's do that. And I already have it plugged in. So here's the global PTDC's locked, 136 billion. Simulated unlock amount is the monthly average, which I figured out is, it's probably somewhere close, perhaps, maybe. None of this is financial advice, of course, but 394 million, a shark position. You enter your lock position, your lock PTDC, and here I have 300 million PTDC, and that's a shark position. So you can divide that by 10 for a dolphin and so on. It's easy math. Simulated price of 1 penny, and I think we're heading there. And if we hit a penny, a while ago it was like, well, we might reach a penny, and now it's like penny's pretty certain. So now I'm looking at, well, we might reach 10 cents. So let's just plug in a penny. And let's say you have 10-year locks. So you're going to garner 100% of the locking rewards for your bag of PTDC. Well, am I on track here?
Yeah. I think if PulseChain is successful, I think 10 cents is easy, right? Like,
sure.
What's your definition of successful?
Mm-hmm.
I think that varies between each person, but a highly successful PulseChain, obviously we get pushed into some crazy numbers.
So a 1 penny PTDC, which we're like 13x away from, would pay, and this guy unlocks in a month, but not this guy, but a number of people probably unlocking, if this average continues, would pay your wallet $8,700 of PTDC in a month. Well, let's put in the price what it is now, actually. What is it, 307? I think it's 307. So it's going to pay you $610. 600 bucks. But if we go to 10 cents, that's $87,000 a month at 10 cents. $87,000 a month if the average continues. If anybody ain't trying to take their FOMO pants off, I don't know what's happening, man. That's some serious dinero for being locked.
Yeah, that definitely is. And real quick for everyone listening, like the 87,000, how many X's is the 10 cents away from us right now? I know looking at pTGC tells us on the dashboard.
Yeah, so if we're 14x away from a penny, that'd be 140x away from
140.
Yeah.
So obviously that's an accomplishment from this level, right? That is quite a bit. But with the fact that PulseChain hasn't done anything yet, and we still haven't, it's kind of like conserving ammo, right? Like we haven't even used that clip. So when PulseChain, or if PulseChain, or any RH ticker or PDI or Bear, any of these things start pulling with us, the ability to do that 140x actually becomes a lot easier than I think people imagine.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with somebody last week, and we were talking about, because I was talking about what I'm discovering about locking, and he's like, yeah, that is a superpower, and we have another superpower in the ecosystem, and it's those early share rates on UFO, the UFO share rates. So we have, then it'd be interesting to do an equivalency experiment, comparing the power of locking versus the power of the UFO shares. Somebody's probably going to do it. Hopefully Crypto Kong.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, kind of operates on a similar mechanic, as UFO, let's say, does a 10x from here, 100x. If you believe the 100x from here is in the cards, I don't see a reason why not. PulseChain hasn't even moved yet, and I think people believe even PulseChain alone could do 100x. But that means those share rates are now 100x more.
Yes. 100x more expensive, you mean, to attain?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Both sides. You would have to come up with both sides.
Exactly. Yeah, man. Sorry, I'm a little excited about that. That's
yeah. And then if you think about like even the first, I think it was a couple months. Gosh, how long did we sit around like 3 mil market cap on UFO? I think it was like a two month period, maybe even a 3 month period.
It was a long time. I remember.
Yeah, and now we're up roughly 30. I would say a round number of 30x from that point. So the UFO share rates have already 30x from that 3 month period where it was a good amount of time where anyone could have scooped up a decent bag of UFO.
It was about 5 months.
So it was 5 months.
Yeah, 4 or 5 months of sideways, nothing. Yeah. And when that sideways nothing is happening situation is happening, that's when people are like, kind of lackluster about, if they don't understand the system and the power of the system, that's when we're likely to diss it and not dollar cost average,
Yeah, I also think it shot up to that range so quick. It started off pretty high, and then right off the bat, it I think shot up to like 4 mil, and then consolidated down to like 1.5 mil, and then came back up to that 3 mil range. And it kind of sat right there. And what I was noticing is some people were getting out, and some people were buying their bags, and some people were getting out, and then some people were buying their bags. And it kind of just needed to consolidate there until the market spoke on which direction it should go.
Yes.
Not everyone has a really long-term vision. A lot of people are just looking for a quick 2x, right? And then they go and try to make another 2x elsewhere.
Yeah. We broke out of the 3 million market cap range on like September 9th.
And it shot up, I think, within 2 months to like an 80, 85 mil market cap range.
It was probably 3 months to, yes, roughly. I think it was 3 months to an 87 mil market cap. Yeah.
Yeah, the video yesterday with Vibra guys, when you guys were looking at the chart at like the initial first cycle, and how it's just like been absolutely dwarfed. It's just kind of, it's a beautiful thing when you are looking at it now. And what people thought back then was like the super giga pump. You can't even see it on the chart anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yes. What?
Amanda, I'm sure you remember that time quite well. Like we pushed up to like a 5 mil market cap, and then we consolidated down to, I think, as low as, 800K market cap. And then people started to kind of realize what this machine was. And now you can't even see those times anymore.
No, on the chart, it's, you have to move the chart around to see it. To think that the current chart will look like that at some point.
Wow. We're really gaining on new users too, wallets. Like in November, we were averaging, this is pTGC alone. In November, we were averaging 30 new wallets a day. December, 28 new wallets a day. January, 36 so far. It's like we're picking up speed. I think people are starting to understand that pTGC and UFO, and this is how I've been starting to think about it, are the elephant in the room. And I don't know how that all works when there's an elephant in the room, but it's like everybody understands there's one there, but nobody mentions it, right? So I think at some point, somebody's going to say, hey, there's an elephant in here. And then everybody's going to be like, you're right. And then everybody suddenly acknowledges the elephant.
You've been running numbers, but I'm sure you've noticed that the APY has been going up. You know, your yield, you should be earning more passive income. You know.
Yes.
And you have been. So it's interesting that even though PulseChain is still where it's been, the higher the price of pTGC and UFO, the higher the market cap, the more USD value of the liquidity web, the APY is growing, even though the mean of the things you're bonded to are still kind of just sitting there. So the point is that as the market cap is growing, as the liquidity web value is growing, as the price is going up, there's more volume, regardless of what the bonding is doing, regardless of what the reflexivity is doing. So as the thing's growing, the volume is picking up because it takes more of the capital movement to rebalance pools when you've got, you know, a $250 million market cap versus a $5 million market cap.
Yeah.
Yeah. To point out, Mando, that APY, like let's just for example purposes, let's say right now is 5% APY on a fully deflationary asset that pays you out in bought pTGC out of the existing liquidity pools, which is also increasing the price of the tokens that you hold. Like that whole idea there, 5%, like decent, but the thing is if PulseChain just goes back to SAC rate, that easily becomes 10% APY. Well, if PulseChain becomes double SAC rate, that easily becomes 20% APY. If PulseChain becomes, 10 times SAC rate, right, then that easily becomes 50% APY. And a lot of people don't realize that the fact of PulseChain being suppressed and us moving against PulseChain and spreading our price from our liquidity, because we've been moving up, but our other side of our liquidity pool has been moving down. So it's not only been suppressing our price, it's been suppressing our liquidity as well. We're actually increasing our PLP tokens constantly, but you're not actually seeing it on the chart, right? And we're also increasing the pTGC price as well, but you're not seeing it actually in our liquidity due to the other side of the pool being suppressed. But once that other side isn't suppressed anymore, our liquidity is going to multiply very, very quickly just due to RH tickers moving up, right? Which will increase the APY. It'll increase the buy and burns. It'll increase the LP ads, DAO funds, etc. And like you said, people are starting to see that the APY is getting better, and the real thing that's going to increase the APY hasn't even happened yet. That's the foundation moving up with us instead of against us.
Does anybody have any comments or questions about what's happening? Does anybody know what's going on with the SEC case or Interpol? Any updates? I haven't heard anything.
Nah, that's all official stuff that'll come out. But piggybacking off what you said, just want to bring it up, because we're watching it and I'm watching it, and I know Prairie, you're watching it because you're watching numbers like till you're blue in the face with this thing. But the percentage of passive income that's being earned, it's very nicely on a percentage basis ticking up. over the last 60 days. You know, if you're not, you know, some people sit there and just watch what comes in every day. If you just don't do that and you come back like in a week, come back in a month, you're making a lot more now than you were previously. And again, without the bonding reflexivity side of things even kicking in. So what that means to me, and I don't, you know, we don't know future, what that means to me is that as the protocol grows, the APY grows. And that's before we actually have a positive impact from, you know, the things we're bonded to. Which is interesting because in inflationary type systems, where people stake or people earn, generally the APY is kind of a set, it's a static, set, strong number, which people like having kind of a set reliability. Okay, this is what I think I'm going to get regardless of anything. But with this, what I'm seeing is the APY is becoming stronger. So what I was good with before, you know, when people are taking positions as you're holding out longer terms, the actual yield, you know, you think, okay, yeah, 7% is good, but then all of a sudden you're at 14%. The yield just doubled. You're at 25%, right? It tripled. That's very powerful for people who are looking for, you know, their capital to not just be, you know, under the mattress type of capital. Because when you've got something like this that, you know, you're happy with an 8% yield, but the performance could take it to a 90% yield or more. That's powerful. We're yet to see what's going to happen with it.
Yeah, and just to point out is that yield is being purchased before being paid out. So it's also helping the price chart of the tokens that you hold and are getting paid out. It's giving your tokens price appreciation. And Amanda, like we all know that yield is awesome, but if you don't have price appreciation or the tokens you're getting paid yield out in are constantly going down, it doesn't really mean anything, right? Like if you're getting a 30% APY but the system is tanking, you would rather just the system to go up and have no APY.
Absolutely.
But obviously both is a pretty good goal. Price go up and APY. And that's why like I always like to touch base on the sustainable APY. With this system, the APY that's being paid out is pretty competitive even at these times. And I believe it gets better as PulseChain gets better. But it is sustainable. And you have to realize is if it's not sustainable and it's still paid out, the value comes out of your chart, which then affects everyone and affects the onboarding process because your chart then starts to go down. Like being a decent looking chart to get people into the protocol and educate them on it. What are we running into next, Banana?
You guys
I
want
have a question for Mando.
Yeah.
If you don't, Mando.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I saw you made a post. You highlighted a certain section, red, and you had a lot of likes on that post. Would you mind like kind of explaining what that was? I'm sure people in hadn't seen it.
Yeah. So
what made you so interested on that paragraph?
Well, obviously we're looking at the new regulatory environment with the new administration that's come in, and then kind of coupling that with who is actually there and what kind of guidance is coming out. But right from the White House, right from the White House website, they put out the executive order from the President of the United States on what they're doing immediately and what they expect to happen immediately. And in Section 1, first summary of Section 1, this is what it reads. And again, this is an executive order. It says protecting and promoting the ability of individual citizens and private sector entities alike to access and use for lawful purposes open public blockchain networks without persecution, including the ability to develop and deploy software to participate in mining and validating, to transact with other persons without unlawful censorship, and to maintain self-custody of digital assets. And I wrote at the top, I don't see a world where @Richard Hart Win doesn't win this case. Silk Road founder pardoned. Trump launching meme coins, now orders lining out the freedom to do exactly what Richard Hart and his community did. Hope your PulseChain bags are packed. It's game over, not financial advice. So the reality is for people who don't know, the guidance that just came out from an executive order from the President of the United States says that we are to be protected from persecution for developing and deploying software, validating and participating in validating and mining, transacting with one another, and without unlawful censorship, and with 100% the ability to maintain our own keys. That's exactly what Richard and the community did when Richard launched Hex, and then the community got together and deployed PulseChain and PulseX. So I was just saying, in this environment, I think that at this point it's like 11,000 views. I think it speaks volumes to the environment that we're in, and I just can't see I just don't have a clue how Richard doesn't have this case dismissed at this point. It's almost like the White House executive order was taken right out of Richard's mouth and put on the screen. And I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, I don't think the PulseChain community could have a better foundation being set for the dismissal of this case, with the president, with obviously information like this coming out of the White House, with even like you said, the meme coin thing on top of it just gives us so much more ammo, or just examples to stand on, that gives us a better chance for dismissal, I feel like. And that's obviously,
well, if you're Judge Ama, if you're her, and you sat through the deposition and listened to Richard's attorneys, which basically just did just amazingly well, right? Everybody read the transcripts, and then you have that executive order come down. You've waited post transition, and then you get that executive order that comes out, and you're watching the president launch meme coins, and you're supposed to be saying that Richard Hart's a bad guy. How do you even come to that conclusion now?
100%.
I just basic fundamental logic says, no, this community deserves to be set free. This is a joke.
Yeah, I think the last week, right? The last week has really even changed the landscape and made the odds hundreds of percents more likely for dismissal, which is amazing.
Richard's obviously getting more active.
I can't wait for the day when he jumps on Twitter and says, "Do you guys want me to live stream?" Do you remember when he used to do that?
Oh man, if that happens, we're going to see a gigapump, an insta gigapump on the chart.
And he knows that. He knows that. He's a wise man. He remembers, and he's just keeping that in his back pocket, I bet. Just waiting for the correct time, and he knows the correct time probably better than any of us.
I actually believe that the entire industry is waiting for that. Like a large, not the entire industry, but a large portion of the space is actually waiting for that and would be very happy to see that.
Yes.
Including Eric Wall, including Altcoin Daily.
Yeah.
Including a lot of his haters. You know?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's been, well, not that we hear from him every year, and he's on Twitter, obviously, but I mean, an actual live stream where, you know, like maybe we can see him on his throne with all of his watches in the background. You know, it'd be refreshing, to say the least, to see him and kind of get caught up in a bit. You know, he's aged a couple years, and, you know, whatever. It'd be cool to see where he is as a person now after these several years have passed.
Well, I didn't realize that we just hit a $253 million market cap. We just breached over $250 million market cap.
Now, does that put us in? Does that put us into the small cap category, or how are those categories broken down?
The small cap is once you reach 100 million, technically.
Okay.
Definitionally, in the industry, it's about 100 million.
Okay.
So, you know, but yeah, I mean, we're hitting new all-time highs as we're on the phone. 76.06, and against PulseChain, 14.53 to 1 ratio, guys.
Yeah.
Whew, you guys remember when we hit the 1 to 1?
August 26th.
Well, if you came in August 26th, you 14.53x your PulseChain bag.
That's correct. That just blows my mind. Blows my mind. I told that to somebody in a group the other day. I don't know if they got it, but shoot, man. 14x. Who wouldn't? If a person holds PulseChain, who wouldn't like to 14x it in a handful of months?
No, everybody would. Everybody wants to. Everybody should. But not everybody will.
Yeah. Well, we are the elephant in the room. At some point, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I was thinking this morning, you remember how Richard Hart used to say, you know, Hex hasn't even gone viral yet. I wonder, you know, in Hex, you know, maybe it'll go viral. I hope it does. I wonder if the Grays currencies will go viral. I wonder if they're going viral.
So just so you know, CoinGecko's been properly submitted, and they are ranking UFO properly according to diminishing supply for the deflation, which is great. But we pinpointed that and are working on getting that worked in on the meme coin category. UFO is in the yield farm category. This is a meme cycle, so you can switch that up as you like. But working on getting the circulating supply fixed, because currently it shows 333. You know, it just shows the 333 billion constantly. So that's not showing the proper market cap. Once that does, you know, that's great to have it listed, because what's going to do is it's going to show the Grays against all memes on all chains just taking over.
Nice.
Yeah, so we're working on trying to get that done.
Cool. Appreciate that work. Crypto Stylist dropped in the chat that pTGC ratio to PulseX is 1 to 20. It's 1 to 21. Actually, I'm looking at it. Not to correct you, Stylist. I know you probably saw this. Maybe you saw this yesterday. But yeah, it's at 1 to 20. And I'm looking at it on the screen. Yep. We're doing good. Even against PulseX.
The funny thing is that it's, you know, for this industry, this market cap's really not even that much. It's not, it's really nothing.
Yeah. $250 million. And what's Bitcoin? Or what's Ethereum? You know? Well, Ethereum looks like it's a 2 billion.
No, Ethereum's wave. Ethereum's probably more like around 600 billion.
Whoa.
On its way to $1 trillion.
Yeah.
Like 405 billion probably right now.
Okay. Wow.
Take a look. Let's take a look. 400. Yeah, yep, you're right. Just over 400 billion. The total market cap of the entire space is 3.7 trillion. Bitcoin being 2 trillion of that.
Wow.
It's exciting times.
Farcoin is worth 1.3 billion. So
What?
That's than Farcoin. So we'll go with that. Dog with hat 1.3 billion. Floki, at least the meme coin that has utility, 1.4 billion. So a lot of upside, and that's all with PulseChain not really doing much yet. I mean, if PulseChain can do a fraction of what people hope for, even a 5x, 10x, 15x from here, I think you're looking at a lot of upside and a lot of passive income from pTGC and UFO.
Well, you know, Nick, when we were at a 10 million, and I'm saying like, yeah, we're going to be at a 20 million just like that. We're at 20 million. I remember we had a great space with the Crypto Stylist. I was like, I don't see how this doesn't hit $100 million market cap very quickly. I just don't see it. Everyone's like, oh man, no, you're just being too bullish. You're being, okay, guys, all right. So what ends up happening is, look at how fast it went down to like that recent pullback to like 96, 97 million market cap. And then instantly just boom, shoots up to $253 million market cap. The thing that people don't get is that it's exponential math formula, right? When it's that water lily tipping point reality that once you hit certain tipping points, math-wise, network effect-wise, there's a velocity that happens. And what took you a year to get to, right, it now takes you a day to get to. So it might have taken you a year to get to your first 100 million, and then it took you a day to get to your next 100 million. That's what people don't account for. And that's without any of the amazing technology, just this innovative alien tech. That's just regular coins that have nothing to do that, right?
Also, it's kind of relevant in the real world too, Mando. Right? They always talk about how like your first million's the hardest to make, and once you can reach that goal, they start to come a lot easier usually.
Yep, that's true. They say if a man is a millionaire and he loses it all, he can get it all back like real quick.
And I was even more saying not even lose it, just
sure
your next million,
okay.
right? Like if you made 1 million, you learned how to make that million. Now you have all that knowledge and that skill and that value too. And now that you have that value can work with you instead of not having that value when you only have your time. And time is very, very hard to scale, right? You can't really scale your time unless you're willing to work 80 hours a week, or, obviously you can hire additional people and pay them for their time and then multiply their time with an upcharge to make money, right? But once you have value, really the value money is the ultimate multiplier of more money. And that's what's beautiful about this system is people put their value in. The value has multiplied to date, so the system's been working. But then now that value is actually working for them and paying them APY for doing so. Pretty much the same goal everyone has in the real world, right? Make money and then earn money off of that money. It's just a lot harder to make X's in the real world than it is in crypto.
Well, there's 5 real categories of thought with what I'm saying with this and what you just said, spot on. But the 5 main categories, and you can grok them up or whatever, is the compounding effects, network effects, economies of scale, feedback loops, and market dominance. So once you take all of those 5 categories and they're happening at the same time, and you're getting the compounding effect, the network effect, the economies of scale, feedback loop, and your product is starting to see market dominance, it's one of those things where everything just starts compounding on itself. And that's before you put something definitionally like this on top of a blockchain like PulseChain at the lows. And that's before you add in this new technology of having a cryptocurrency that's actually generating revenue like a company, and 100% putting it constantly back into a smaller and smaller token supply. It's an experiment in crypto of a lifetime, watching this thing.
Yeah, I think the thing with that, Mando, and I feel like a lot of people haven't really put that together yet, but it's so important, is fitting it into a smaller cup constantly, fitting it into less tokens.
I mean, let's take a look. Prairie, how many tokens are on the float right now? If you look at the pie, what do we have in there? It's got to be under 5 point. It's got to be 5.4 or 5.3 or less now.
Give me a second.
Somewhere around.
Yeah, give me a second. I'll pull it up. I haven't looked at it in quite a while. It is 5.368. Yeah, I think that's 5,368,000,000.
Yeah, so that means that there's less than 2 whale positions of tokens left, even available for the world to buy.
Mm-hmm.
That means that every day there's less tokens. If people are willing to sell them, there's less tokens out of that 5.3 billion. And every day there's revenue coming in, and that revenue has to fit into those tokens because the protocol has to purchase out of those pools, out of that 5.3 billion tokens, to continue to add liquidity, to continue to do buy and burns, to continue to pay out APY. That's where it's coming from one vantage point. From another vantage point, it's coming from other people buying it up, right? But still,
well, that's the 2 places, right? That's what's so important, is the only way you get to access the list of things you just said, the fact that the machine's value generating system is purchasing tokens out of that liquidity pool, which is appreciating the price up, and then it's paying APY with appreciation, it's buying and burning the supply, and it's constantly adding LP, which the LP is the value to the holders, right? The only way you get to access any of those benefits is by purchasing out of whatever is remaining, right? And obviously you can purchase, and then I'm sure as price goes up, some users do sell into that liquidity pool. So it does kind of refill itself as as time goes on. But the thing is currently there's only 5.3 billion. And the only way you get to access this tech is by owning the pTGC token. So if you want to participate, and it's not just you, it's the whole world, right? Like if anyone in the whole world wants to participate in being connected to the value that this system is building, they have to own the token. And who else is buying this out of that liquidity pool? The smart contract itself. The APY that it's paying out has to be bought out of that pool. The buy and burn has to be bought out of that pool. The LP ads have to be bought out of that pool. So you're not just fighting with all the users for whatever remaining supply is left. You're also fighting with the code as well.
You want to know something interesting about that supply? On December 22nd, the supply was 7.4 billion. Today, it's 5.4. That's a 27% reduction in 1 month.
Wow.
We're crushing it. Absolutely crushing it.
Yeah, I think by pTGC, obviously the chart looks so amazing. And obviously, supply control. A lot of the whales are either holding, compounding, or only slow selling. Nobody's really full clipping, which is why things look so great. And, I look at the PulseChain chart, and I think a 25% rally from here is where you're going to run into some overhead resistance for PulseChain. And I think if PLS runs 25%, that means PLSX and HEX probably do 30% or more. I think they'll outperform. And I think that probably means that pTGC does over 100% not including rewards. And the reason I say that is after the Interpol crash, PLS is still down 40% from that mark. pTGC is 75% higher than the Interpol mark, which means it's like 140% outpacing PLS here plus passive income. So I mean, if those rates kind of work together, PLS just to get to the Interpol mark needs a 40% rally. And if that happens, what does pTGC do? Probably 150%, maybe 200%. So that's what I'm looking at, and that's why I just keep telling everybody in my community, it's like they're coming over, they're heavy on PLS, they're getting their feet wet, but I'm just like, guys, I've been telling you, I just made a post 14 months that I thought pTGC would want to be one of the big winners of this ecosystem. That's why we're still, we sold some, but predominantly long in all of our wallets for pTGC, just because mathematically, if you believe in PulseChain, I think it's one of your best assets, and obviously that's pTGC and UFOs, a newer launch and following that, but that's what I'm looking at. I look step by step. I think 25% till strong overhead resistance for PLS. That's going to be 30% plus for HEX and PLSX. And I think that's going to be 100% plus for pTGC.
Yeah, I think that's just like the beginning.
Yeah, and that's why, everybody speculates on, can PLS do a 50x or 100x a cycle? I'm looking at, if PLS does a 4x or a 5x, I think the X's for pTGC, not even including your passive income, is astronomical, and that chart is going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that people have gotten to be such bears on PulseChain's price, on what PulseChain can do from where we were before. Like, to hear people say that PulseChain, it's, let's hope for a 5x. It's just... To me, that represents complete failure. Not failure of the tech, not failure of the chain from one vantage point, but it just represents failure its first cycle, right? But obviously under a lot of stupid wet blanket bureaucracy. Yeah, I think it's gonna do much better than that. But Nick, I mean, if those are numbers just being super bearish, not bad.
Right, exactly. I think, SEC, I've been saying, I think SEC, Richard Hart wins, Interpol stuff goes away, Richard Hart gets back going live, you need Ethereum at 10,000, and PulseChain obviously can do way more multiples than that, but I'm just looking at it from a pessimistic view of, we're already winning big, but we can all win really big with just the 5x on PLS. and that's probably a 6 or 7x for PLSX or Hex from here. And that's really all you need to have massive gains for pTGC, and that's a super pessimistic, bearish outlook for this cycle. So I'm just reaffirming to people that are tuning in for the first time that you're looking at that pTGC chart and you're like, oh my God, look at that thing. I still think you're early if you think PulseChain's going to do anything.
Yeah, and you mentioned selling a little bit earlier. And, it's funny because, and then, I'll just mute. But, at some point I was like, I got to sell some of these damn pTGC tokens, right? So I've never sold any of my principal, but I took a little bit of my yield, and I'm like, just out of principle, you have to sell something, right? Every time I've ever taken a little bit of my yield and sold it, I've just instantly regretted it. Every time. I've never felt like that with any other project, after doing so well. But this one, it's just an insta regret, dude.
Yeah, and I think the reason for that too is just because you're looking at it mathematically in the history of what it's doing, and you're kind of forward looking to what it can do with any kind of volatility or upside on PulseChain. And it's just a win-win. It doesn't matter when interpol happens. As long as there's volume and volatility, pTGC continues to win. And then if there's upside, then liquidity bonding makes it win even harder. So that's why you're not really going to outperform it with too many things. Yes, you might be able to get in a pre-sale or a new launch. Obviously, those are way more risky. And, if you're selling pTGCs because the bag is ballooned so much, and maybe you have real world bills, or you want to take a vacation, or you want to set something aside to a real world asset investment class or something. But really here in crypto, especially if you believe in PulseChain, mathematically, pTGC is something that I haven't really seen ever. And it's kind of, I have a trading group. Rarely do we buy something and sit here and just buy it 12 more times for 14 months and not have any sales. That is very rare. And that's something that we're doing with pTGC. And people that join the group today, I say, take some Ethereum, go to PulseChain, buy pTGC, UFO, and a couple other assets, and sit on them. That's it. And if you want to know how to stake them, we can do that. If you want to know how to lock them, we can do that. And it's, like I said, very rare we buy and hold something for 14 months besides like a Bitcoin. And that's something we're doing.
Well, yeah, because you don't have sustainability and longevity in this space with 99% of the things you buy. They're all fucking pump and dumps, dude. Doesn't matter if you attribute utility to them or not. That's the thing. People are realizing that the way that this is built for sustainability and longevity. As long as PulseChain is here, this thing keeps doing what it's doing. It doesn't mean it can't have the normal cycle drawdowns of 50%, 80%, or whatever. But one thing we were talking about the other day, Nick, is if you look at the chart, and if you look at there's never been a time where pTGC has retraced, 30% or more, let's just say that, from an actual human selling it into the market. The only time you had a retracement of anything like that is because of the reflexivity with bonded liquidity in the pools. Anytime you've seen a pullback, any significant pullback, it was because of reflexivity in the pools. It wasn't because a human went blah and got $1 million out of the chart. When you realize that, when you're looking at that, you can't see it against PulseChain's chart. You have to look at the USD, because against PulseChain, it's just murdering it. So when you switch it to USD, and you look at, okay, the first drawdown was normal. That's like people testing the waters. But after that, it goes up, and you have a 19-week drawdown on the chart. People, you would think, if you didn't know what was happening, people were selling it down. No, they weren't. That was PulseChain and the mean of RH tickers that were bonded to going down for 19 weeks. But when you invert it against PulseChain, we were destroying it against PulseChain the whole time. Right? So that's the biggest problem with this that I see, and you comment on this, is that when people come in and they don't understand the nuances of the system, they're trying to use standard TA and standard KPIs to to see where this is at. You can't do that with this thing. You have to understand how things are working, the reflexivity, why the things went down, and that's what makes this so interesting. And it's actually what has kept people who would have bought out of the system because they didn't understand. Like we've had high profile people in our community, what should I buy this? What should I buy that? You've seen, why would I buy a top, right? Well, that top would have turned your bag into, $650 million right now.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
Two-part thing, for OGs who tend to be whales, a lot of reflection tokens on other chains historically are usually short-lived. If you get in early, you can reap the rewards of price appreciation and also large reflection APY. But none of them had a system, A, of LP bonding with a layer 1 near the lows, like we see here with PulseChain, or at least that's what we believe. And then B, with the deflationary mechanisms and locking mechanisms that we see. A lot of them were kind of centralized exchange shitcoins that were using reflections based on hyperinflationary rates, which is why they're short-lived. And pTGC kind of changed that and turned it on its head. Number two, with you saying you haven't seen big sell-offs, the reason being is, like I said, 14 months. For some people, that's an eternity, but 100x plus passive income, I'll take that. And you have a lot of chads and smart individuals and people that really are core rigid heart believers that hold pTGC and were early to pTGC. So I feel like a lot of the whales in this project, none of them are really super nefarious, or even if they're nefarious and they want to sell for gains, none of them are really stupid. None of them are dumb. None of them are cheating into the chart. They understand, hey, this thing keeps going up into the right. Mathematically, it looks good. Sell 1,000 here, sell 1,000 there. Why do you need to clip $1 million? Why do you need to clip $100,000? That just doesn't mathematically make sense. And I think that's why you're seeing so much strength in the chart. Is really the core holders, the whales in this community, understand the upside potential, but also understand how to exit positions responsibly because they've been here in the space. So that's kind of my 2 cents. I don't want to monopolize the space, but I'm going to eat some breakfast and keep listening in. But that's kind of my opinion on what you said and why I continue to talk about and continue to hold and continue to try to onboard people into pTGC even at these levels. Because like you said, standard TA doesn't work when the token economics are so great. And then obviously the token economics are supported by the belief that PulseChain is super cheap and we're LP bonded with all the biggest blue chips and biggest speculative plays in the ecosystem.
Yeah, well said. Prairie, you got anything else?
No, I'm trying to forecast when we could reach a penny. We've been speculating since last summer.
I have a couple things to add to the conversation that you guys are having.
Please.
So yesterday, me and Banana went on someone's stream that's kind of a newer person to our ecosystem. He knows about us and he's known about us for a long time, but he hasn't fully dove into the ecosystem. He might have a small bag, but he doesn't talk to his community about it. And he was bringing up that he's a TA guy, and he just said I might start making some videos about pTGC and UFO, but I just want to be honest, I'm a TA guy, and I'm going to TA the charts, and I'm going to obviously instruct my community based on my TAing. And I said, hey, I'm just going to give you a little piece of advice because I've heard this TA guy thing over and over again, because most TA guys come from a traditional finance background. And I just want to inform you that how pTGC and UFO operate is not like a traditional finance system. So your standard TA can work to an extent, but there's a lot of things that you need to take into consideration. I said, yes, you can look at the pTGC and UFO chart and say, wow, this is a little overbought right now due to RSIs, BACD, whatever, right? All the standard stuff that they all use and think this is a future telling stuff. But I said, one thing that really is different about DeFi and these V2 liquidity style pools is it doesn't matter actually what you are, but a lot of it matters of what you're connected to is. So yeah, 100%. If you're overbought and the things you are bonded to are overbought as well, then yeah, TA wise, I would probably lean on that same side. everything is overbought, everything is connected. But what a lot of TA guys don't take into consideration, because they're looking at our singular chart saying, this system is obviously up and to the right now, it's overbought, but they're not paying attention to all of our connected assets and what those are at that exact time. Because what actually happens a lot is we'll be moving up already. We're like front running the move, and everything else is hyper oversold. For an example, like PDI a couple days ago, right? We started moving up for, I think it's a couple weeks now or whatever, and then it's getting to the more of the top range where a normal traditional finance TA guy would say, okay, this is starting to get a little heavier towards the top. But then you have the event where one of our connected assets hits those oversold ranges and then kicks up. And then that value gets transferred into our system, pushing it up even further and further and further. And it's not just one leg that does that. We have like 10 very, very strong legs that do that as well. So TA-wise, I think this is kind of pushing people into a realm that they don't fully understand. And it's kind of tricked up some of the best TA people out there, to be honest. And that's kind of what I told them. I said, like, hey, just for your own audience, like, expand your view as well, because this isn't the same thing as what you've been TAing for the last 10 years, right? Like these are new products, new innovations, and you have to treat them as new products and new innovations and TA them a little bit different. So I did educate him on that. And he was pretty much, I think, in a little bit of shock that he doesn't even really understand how like these systems operate to that magnitude. And then it clicked for him.
Well, some of the smartest people in our own community on the tech side that are very good at explaining tech stuff, it's the same way. Just because you understand like techie stuff and, you know, you understand about bridging and you understand about, you know, validating and all this type of stuff, it doesn't mean you understand how liquidity works.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of people don't even understand how the V2 style liquidity pools work in general, like all throughout blockchain. They kind of just use it. It's kind of like most people like hopping in their car and it just works, so they don't need to understand how it does run. But the truth is there's a lot to it. And once you understand it, you obviously can use that to your benefit. The other thing that you guys were talking about was the fact that, like, you know, obviously as people make gains, prices continue to going up because holding is so important. Like Richard Hart is such a huge advocate for this. Like what really matters, what needs to happen for a price to go up, it's the community actually holding the project. And obviously within code, you want to create ways that incentivize them to hold the project. And that could be via APY, security, scarcity, sustainability, right? Like these are all the boxes that we were trying to check with the development of pTGC, because we want to give users the reason to hold. But you can kind of even relate it back to the real world, right? Like, Mando, you were saying like, yeah, you made some APY and, you know, you're like, you know what, I made APY. This machine is designed for users to increase their value of their asset, get paid APY, and if they need to use that APY to enjoy their life a little bit, it's fine, right? The APY that's being paid out is justified by purchases on the chart, so you're not dramatically hurting anything. It was bought out of the system, used value-generating systems to pay that out to you. So enjoy your life a little bit, right? Like pull a little out, go out to dinner, or pay some bills, whatever you want to do. It's pretty similar to the real world, right? Like when people have tons of assets, let's say you retire and all your value is in like property, assets, just passive income streams that pay APY, right? Well, they're no longer working, so how they pay their bills is off of the APY of these systems, right? But the trick is they're never tapping into their initials, their principals. They are living off of the APY that it's printing for them and doing what they want to do. So this system was obviously designed in that same way. And I do believe that a lot of the big players in the system realize that, right? you don't sell your beachfront property for cash when it's printing you $20K a month in passive income, right? Because once you get that cash, you're like, well, I need this cash to earn me APY. They already had it in that. So really what I see them taking, or anyone taking, for example, is like what you need just as far as like fiat for on-demand cash, right? Like they'll have their assets, and yeah, they want on-demand cash fiat for their everyday transactioning, you know, their vacations, their bills. But other than that, you want that money in assets working for you. And that's why this product is so unique, is it's actually modeled off of real world assets that has this idea has been being done for hundreds of years. We didn't need to rethink the idea of stores of value or assets, right? And we can utilize them in the same way.
Well, let me say this and give a different perspective too. I agree with everything that you just said, right? Nick used the word nefarious earlier about selling, right? Well, I was contacted by the CFTC. They're doing investigations on certain things a while back, and that's a very interesting phone call, by the way, to be contacted by the federal government and have those conversations with those people. They're very interesting. And you know, the main thing with the government is that they're just 100% opposed to people pumping up a chart and dumping it immediately. It just illegal pump and dumps. Just, you know, somebody promotes something and 3 days later, the people who were promoting it dump it on people's heads, right? Now, in the legacy world, you know, if you buy something that's paying you a dividend and it explodes and you haven't sold anything for 16 months and you choose to sell it, the industry doesn't call that person nefarious. The industry calls that person somebody who made money. They're a capitalist, right? So I'm not the guy who shies away from knowing the industry that I'm in. We all know the industry that we're in. So we're always looking for the better product, the thing that actually would make people want to hold naturally, even if they're in profits, right? But the thing that I like about pTGC is over time, and this isn't anything. The people who got the richest in Bitcoin were people who bought and mined Bitcoin and never sold. The people who are richest in Ethereum are the people who mined it and bought it and just literally walked away for 3 cycles. They're gazillionaires, right? But if they sold, they're not nefarious. They sold. They sold out, and they gave an opportunity for somebody else. My point is that the way that this system is designed, what I'm seeing is, like, literally what's happening is I've never been involved in a scenario where you actually have the community wanting people to dump because of the opportunity that they see that it is, right? And even with that environment, you don't have. I think Prairie said that in the beginning there was like 70 people that had more than 1% of supply or something like that, and now it's down to like 15 positions or something. So the token
Coach said that recently. Yeah, Coach knew that number.
Yeah, so the token distribution has just become beautiful because a lot of people sold a lot way too soon. But let's be real. If someone got involved in something and held it for 16 months, 24 months, 36 months, and then decides to sell it, that's not nefarious. That's just anything. That's just anything. But the system here just presents an opportunity for those tokens to be redistributed, and everybody wins. Everybody gets paid out. All the tokens are redistributed. More APY, more LP, and you know the opportunity on top of what I'm saying here is with the amount of liquidity that's here now within the ecosystem. 30. What is the amount of liquidity right now? with this new run up in price, what is it, like 33 million in the ecosystem? It's got to be like 30 million, 35 million or something, right?
It's tapping 30 million, and that's not really including like some of the more non-active pairs. That's mostly just active.
That's just the main pairs, right?
Yeah, the active ones, that have good volume through them and stuff like that.
Yeah, so we've watched people take $500,000 clips to $250,000 clips. The other day, Zen told me that somebody took like almost $250,000 out of the pTGC chart, or a couple people that were kind of back to back. Maybe it was the same guy with multiple wallets. I didn't even notice it on the chart. But what happens when the liquidity web isn't 30 million? It's 130 million or 230 million when PulseChain revalues. So now you're looking at, because the conversation is always liquidity. The real opportunity that I see with this is, it's like what Richard always says: the best opportunity is when the liquidity is lower, when nobody knows about it, when nobody's buying it, because once you have that revaluation in the liquidity, and this specific cryptocurrency is so liquid, well, now people can sell in and out of the chart, and it doesn't even really affect the chart. So that's why getting in now is the opportunity, in my opinion, of a lifetime. If, in fact, PulseChain goes to do, like Nick said, a modest 5x to 10x from here, I mean, this system's looking at hundreds of millions of dollars in liquidity. At that point, it doesn't matter who the hell sells down into the chart. I don't think you can say that about pretty much anything. Very few things on any chain, especially on PulseChain. So, I'm just saying, Zen, that I'm kind of like playing the devil's advocate a little bit. Like I don't want to be called nefarious because I wanted to sell an investment that I held, right? Or like a malicious actor, No, a malicious actor is a pump and dumper. But at the same time, look at the opportunity.
I think that's what I was exactly saying is, like in the real world, you have assets, right? Or you have property. And if that property paid you, just because you lived your life with that value that you made, you paid bills, you went on vacation, that doesn't make you a bad property owner, right?
Exactly.
It doesn't make you a bad person. Even sometimes, like, people sell the property because they bought the property at, let's say $1 million 20 years ago, and now it's worth $5 million. Well, people aren't saying like this is a bad property owner. It's, well, no, his property went in value, and there usually is someone else willing to buy it at this new value who is willing to sit around with it for the next 10 years, right? So it could do something for them as well. So I couldn't agree more, right? It's some people.
One of the things. Sorry to cut you off. Let me just say this. One of the things that I hear a lot about is this whole thing of like you have these cabals where if somebody sells something, it's like, they say you're tracking your wallets and they say all this. One of the things that they love about pTGC is that there's none of that bullshit here, right? Culturally, there's none of that stuff where, look, we've watched, anybody can sell. Do you ever see in the TG what you normally see in every other TG? Oh, you cheat, son of a bitch, you but dumbass, all these stupid, classless comments when people buy or when people sell. No. And that's one of the things that I that's really attractive to me about this community is when people sell, I guarantee you that people wish that somebody would sell $1 million into the chart right now. The fact that that's not happening is very telling to me. I'll just leave it there, man. The fact that that's not happening And I think that there's a lot of people that sold way too early and that they're having super coat mode. They really are. I think that it's indicative of the fact that the people who are holding any amount of shark position, dolphin position on up, they realize, after 16 months of taking in the information, how valuable these tokens may be one day.
Yeah, I think people realize that, again, we're going over what's liquid on the market, right? The 5.3 billion, which is less than 2 whales. And the only way more pTGC gets into that liquidity pool for someone to purchase is by someone selling it, right? Like that's the only way, because if no one sells it, the contract is going to buy out of there, which obviously makes it so there's even less for purchase and price goes up. So a worse buying opportunity, or a human buys out of there and pushes the price up as well. And there's less in there for the buying opportunity. So really the only way tokens can get in there, because it's, there isn't inflation coming out where you can kind of sit and be like, well, these will come because the supply is ever increasing, blah, blah, blah. Well, no, the supply is ever decreasing. So the only way tokens can get in there is by someone taking profits, someone putting their tokens back onto the market for another one to purchase. And if you have, a desired good, right, there becomes a line, there becomes a waiting list for that desired good. Like when the housing market has a shortage, right? There becomes a long list of people waiting for a house to go on the market, and then there's 100 bids on it, right? Like people are offering cash, they're going 20% over asking price because there's this line of competition for that specific product. This is really, really common with designer goods, right? Like luxury cars, watches, etc. They have an email list, and as soon as one is made, they say, "Hey, this is being made. Does anyone want it?" It's answered within minutes, because of the scarcity and the value that those things bring, because they're going up in value, so people can hold them and feel confident in the sustainability and in the investment of that asset, while also it being a form of, scarcity. There's just not a lot out there, so they has sustainability to it.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, guys, is this thing is so interesting, because the interesting thing is if people sell, it's one thing in stupid pump and dump coins and stupid BS that has no longevity, no real life, no nothing. But with this system, if you were talking about how the price can run up against the liquidity, right? Even though that's all the system's been doing, even with the DAO revenue, is just slamming liquidity, right? But if somebody says, you know what, I've had enough, I feel like I've made enough money for my family, takes $500,000 in one market sell out of the chart, well, that redistributes those tokens. And what it does is it provides an opportunity for redistribution, but it also provides an opportunity for the system itself, because now those tokens that just took a 40% hit or whatever, right? You're burning way more tokens because the tokens are 40% cheaper, but you're also benefiting from the fact that you can put more liquidity in now at a lesser price against the liquidity, so that when it goes back up to that same market cap it was before, you actually have more liquidity. So there's all these different things where it's almost beneficial if we could get some guys to sell.
Well, and you would be receiving quantity more in tokens APY.
100%.
So then once 100%. It goes back up, you do those X's as well with your APY.
Oh, absolutely. If someone sells $1 million into the chart, it's actually beneficial. I know that sounds crazy, but...
Well, Mando, think about it like this. In a thriving economy, what is happening? People are spending money, right? Money is moving. They don't want you just taking your money and then putting it under the mattress, right? They want you to be moving the money. because when the money is moving, businesses are thriving. You know, the money's moving, they're making taxes on the money, blah, blah, blah. But a thriving economy has volume. When the economy isn't thriving, people aren't spending money. They're not going to restaurants. They're not going to stores. They're not doing this. So it's good to have movement. That shows it's thriving, right?
100%. 100%. And let's talk about it like this. The other day, I think it was last month. You guys will remember. Everybody in here will remember. Someone took like $500,000 out of the UFO chart, right? I didn't even know that happened until Zen hit me up. It was like, hey, you know, but look at the price now. I mean, it's basically right about to hit new all-time highs and just go straight. And I didn't even recognize that it even really happened. So what happens when, you know, we have a true revaluation of Richard's blockchain, right? So to me, it's like, it's a breath of fresh air that we don't have to buy into all these BS pump and dump apply narratives, because you actually have a real cryptocurrency. The Gray's currency is a real cryptocurrency. I think that's a very good statement. From all indications, it's a real cryptocurrency. It's not some just token. Let me ask you this. If somebody pushed the chart down 35% right now, 40% right now in one market sell, can you explain how that would benefit the system? This is one of the best things about our community is we're always willing to talk about the things that nobody else wants to talk about. We're always willing to talk about, when the chart isn't going up and how the system will work, right? So let's just say somebody says, hey, give me $1 million out of the chart right now. How do we benefit from that? Zen.
The tokens would be obviously cheaper in price, which means the smart contract can then be buying up those tokens at a cheaper price and burning them at a cheaper price, making it so in the future, when we're back at higher levels, more of the supply has been bought and burned, making it so they could never be resold again. That's a huge benefit. I think it also gives the users who are new an opportunity at a discount to get into the system, kind of like when a store puts an item on sale. You know what I mean? You kind of been wanting this item, but it's like, that's, the item's a nice item. It's, a Apple Watch. It's kind of pricey. I'll have to save up for that. But then the store says, oh, we're doing a 35% off today. And you're like, okay, I'll take that deal, right? So then it gives users the ability to come in and get the product that they were looking to get at a sale discount price, which is good for distribution and good for our users because we want them to buy at discounted prices if possible, right? The APY would be better in token quantity for the idea that, let's say we sit down there for a little bit and you're earning for a month at the lower levels, but volume's still good, movement's still good. Well, then once price goes back up, let's say double, well, now you just 2x'd all that APY. So that's a good thing as well. Those are a few items.
So I'm looking at and guys, please chime in on this conversation. This is a great conversation. But I'm looking currently at $255.3 million market cap on pTGC, 14.64 to 1 ratio against PulseChain on the weekly chart. And since September 16th, there has been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks of red. 3 of those weeks were barely red. They were like dojis that just like went straight into the middle, right? So what does that mean? The only way you can really see on the chart when somebody actually like sold like an actual market sell of pTGC into the chart pretty good and like made the chart go down is when you invert it against PulseChain and see that the chart went down against PulseChain predominantly. You're not going to be able to see it really on the USD chart because of the reflexivity. when you look at that, people just aren't selling the damn token in any kind of copious amounts. The biggest drawdown, Zen, was on December 23rd. And that looks like it was like, I don't know, maybe like a 17% drawdown against PulseChain. And literally the very next week, it just wicked up and went straight back to new all-time highs again.
Yeah, and one thing you have to kind of keep in mind too is when you're pricing against PulseChain, you have to also take into consideration all the other assets that we're connected to. So even sometimes when we go down against PulseChain, it still isn't due to us getting sold. It could just due to, for example, pDAI might have took a huge retracement, which I'm thinking back, that might be that time. pDAI had some like bad news, or not really bad news, but just like people were hoping for an outcome and the outcome didn't come as they planned. So then a sell-off happens, blah, blah, blah. Or, Hex, because of reflexivity, usually what happens with reflexivity, it actually doesn't really happen with our system just due to how the mechanics work in the background as far as buying and burning, buying and burning, buying and burning. But in normal reflexivity with no mechanics, usually when, for an example, PulseChain goes up, the alts will go up more. But then when PulseChain goes down, the alts will go down more. So what you'll see is when the market starts shifting negative, money will kind of flow out of the alts back into the more stable things with more liquidity. So those could cause those red days as well, not just sells on our chart.
Yeah, and when you do the same thing with UFO and you put it on the weekly against Pulse, which is where you kind of see any sell-offs, you just really don't see any. That you see just before the Interpol FUD, you see that one guy who sold $500,000 into the chart, and it just kept on going. So this is just a super interesting conversation because it's juxtaposed to just the whole space that we're in. And what I'm saying is, to land my plane, my apologies, is that we haven't seen a crypto this strong before against the gas token that's moving up so fast, and people now just aren't, even though they're in really good gains, aren't really willing to get rid of the tokens. It's indicative of something very interesting. Sometimes I wish that they would sell, because then the tokens are burning faster, people are making more APY, you're distributing those tokens amongst 11,500 users, plus all the people on the sidelines waiting to buy at a cheaper price. You're adding liquidity in at a cheaper price, which means that the factor goes up when it goes back up. There's a lot of amazing reasons to have some people actually selling a good amount right now, but it's just not happening.
Well, let me bring some context into some numbers. So, like, somebody actually did market sell $1 million into the chart. Let's just say that hypothetical scenario happens. All right, before that person sold into the chart, so I'm just talking about 24-hour period, there was probably most likely at least $200,000 to $300,000 of volume. Okay, so we had 1.3 million dollars of volume from just those two equations. So then you have to come to the context of what is the effect after that. So in just the liquidity pool of Pulse, if somebody's going to be market dumping that amount, there's going to be market buying from arbitrage bots for, I want to give a round quote of at least 60% to 60 to 70% back into the market. So it's add another $700,000 to that 1.3 million. So that's $2 million in just one liquidity pool. And then all the arbitrage bots have to fix the prices. So it's just kind of in terms of all, or the pDAI, Teddy Bear, Atropa, PulseX, eHex, Inc. liquidity pools would say hypothetically that gave volume to about, let's just add 100,000 to every single one. So that is basically like 2.5 million. Going to the Dow, that would occur in the 24 hours of about $40,000 of pulse. So 800 million pulse to the Dow in one single day. Another thing that is occurring is that there is about $12,000 that is literally just buying and burning the chart up too. Plus, you add to the context of adding $12,000 to, and these are rough numbers, guys, to the Pulse liquidity pool without the Dow doing anything. And you have to think about the context of what the Dow could possibly have in terms of Pulse ready to go for buys and burns for situations like this. So that just adds another metric to the table. And then at the same time, like what Mando was saying, it goes to the tokens gets distributed. I don't know, those type of occurrences.
Well, that doesn't even count all the people on the sidelines with millions of dollars ready to buy up the freaking chart, dude.
Well, yeah. Well, I wasn't finished, Mando. You just kidding.
Oh no, you're doing good. I'm just getting a little overexcited about it because I know that's actually happens there, you know.
But it's already
like,
happened too.
Shit.
We've already seen this like occurrence. It's just like
many times, yeah.
Like literally, if a person did a market sell of $1 million, right after that market sell, there would probably be at least a buy of about at least $500,000 to 600 million, or not $500 million, $500,000 right after that. Literally in seconds.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, this is the coolest system to watch by far. It's kind of hard to go out there shit coining, guys, when you've got the Grace ecosystem in your wallet. It's fun. Don't get me wrong. I still do it, but I feel way more I feel 10 times more like a degen now. Is there anybody Prairie, do you have anything, any comments, any questions coming in? Does anybody want to come up and speak, ask questions, or give some comments? Community, we love you. Love to have you come up and put your spirit on the space, man.
Yeah, by all means. Raise your hand, or if you have the mic, jump in. I do have a thought. Trying to forecast when we could perhaps, I'm not a TA guy, I'm just a numbers guy, but when are we going to reach a penny? That'll be a super milestone. And last summer we were forecasting like March. We recalibrated again in December, and we still fell on March. I'm just doing back, napkin math here, but we reached 301 on the 6th of December. 2 months later, we had done a 5x, so 305. And we're coming up on 201. If we do that by the 1st of February, which is just next week. Now, mind you, we revisited 305 11 days ago, and we're already halfway between 305 and 201. I don't know if you guys can follow this, but basically, if we continued the trend from 301 on the 6th of October, we could perhaps be to a penny by the 1st of June. And, I personally can wait from March to June to have a 1 penny pTGC. And I know that go ahead.
You know what happened last time you made that prediction, right?
Well, I made a prediction about, being 10 to 1 a few weeks ago, and now we're almost 15 to 1. And the prediction was that we could do it by April. 15 to 1.
And it did it like a week later?
No, like 3 days later. 3 days later, I made a estimate with my calculator on Saturday spaces like we're at right now. And I said, well, I think we could be 10 to 1 by April. I think we were 10-1 by, it was Monday or maybe Sunday or Monday. So yeah, let's crush the penny estimate of June and do it by Monday. Just kidding.
Yeah, if we don't see people selling at a penny that have some of these larger bags, if we don't see that, that's just going to be crazy, dude. That's just going to be crazy.
Not to mention how it's going to affect the emergency end lock scenario that we talked about early in this space. You know. Exciting times for sure. Yeah. Electric Buddha says that would be absolutely insane. I agree. pTGC is making millionaires. pTGC and UFO. Honestly. I know of several that have become new millionaires in this ecosystem. Pretty much everybody that's here and has been here for, obviously the longer you've been here, the more this would be true. But a lot of people that have been here for a while, the Grays currencies is their biggest holding in their wallet. Because we've been moving up against everything on the Pulse network. We're an index of the best assets on PulseChain. What else, guys? You want to do some moon math? Or are we all mooned out?
Yeah, I think the moon math is like mooned out. I mean, it's just like we just keep mooning.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I would just love to, I would love to have a little bit more conversation and interaction, and just what's the community's thinking about. It's like when Nick came up, he made some great points. I love hearing other people's point of view.
Yes. Me too. Listen, I'm a prairie banana and I'm getting insights on stuff. Certainly other people are having aha moments in the shower or whenever. I can't be the only one. So if you guys have any ahas, I mean, come up and say something. We'd love to hear it. It gives us something to, think about. I love data points. It's like one of my friends always says, he says, give me information for data points so I can make decisions. I just want information.
So I'll give you a little bit of a praise report. My son, he's been onboarding all of his buddies to pTGC and UFO. He's 19.
Yay, man. Good kid. I like that kid already.
I started, and once he got his new job here, I waited about a month and then onboarded him and he started to tell all of his buddies. And all of his buddies, they didn't even need walkthroughs or anything. They got their ease, they bridged it in, they didn't need to help any of them. And last night, got a phone call from one of them, just thanking him up and down because it's just changing his life. He took a spot in UFO, a good little time ago, and he just can't believe it. He's just like, oh my gosh, it's been nothing but rug pulls for me in crypto, and just one thing, you called me up and said, hey, this is looking pretty good. And so I just thought that was a cool little praise report from a young 20-year-old kid. And, he's being blessed by being involved.
Yeah, hopefully and I'm guessing it's probably money he earned. And then he puts it into something that blows it up. And he just
literally just working at a grocery store, working his butt off.
There you go, man.
The kid is working 50-hour work weeks trying to put it all in crypto because he just, he knows this is the time to do it. But he's just been getting rug pulled. Finally, he's a gamer buddy, online with my son. My son's like, dude, look at pTGC and UFO. He did. So good for him. I think that's a big thing, guys, is recognizing where we are in the cycle and recognizing, maybe there are still a lot of people out there that just need a phone call. It's one thing, kind of like preaching the Gray's gospel in a way, every community should be doing it. I think we have a really good reason to do it here.
I think there are some people that have YouTube channels that are going to get a phone call because their audiences deserve to hear about these currencies. And that stream that we did with, I can never remember. Zen, who did we stream with on Thursday? It's
Charlie.
Yeah, the name of his channel.
Cultivate Crypto.
There you go. Cultivate Crypto. I reached out to him, and it's one of those things like you reach out to somebody and you don't expect anything, or you actually expect nothing, right? I expected nothing. Of course, I don't expect anything of everybody, but I'm like, okay, this guy's got 33,000 subs. He's probably, and he's a heavy Bitcoin, Ethereum, almost a TradFi. That's how he appeared to me. But I was recommended to reach out to him. So I reached out to him and he replied back. I'm like, okay, cool. We got the conversation started. And then he wants to talk on the phone. We spent 10 minutes on the phone and arranged a stream. I'm like, yeah, man, I did not expect that to happen, but it did. And it worked out very well. We, the video has over 2,000 views right now, his video on his channel, Cultivate Crypto. And he liked the product, and he liked Zen and myself. And actually he's like, I don't know. He says, I don't invite people to my whatever thing he does on Fridays, which I need to look into, but he says, you guys are invited. His biggest concerns about the ecosystem were longevity. He's like, as soon as we started the stream, he says, are these tokens going to be around for a while? Because I'm tired of these fly-by-night, flash-in-the-pan projects that disappear. And by the end of the conversation, I think he was impressed. And we were impressed. He's a very, very kind man, easy to get along with, but it was a great stream.
Well, yeah, he said he wants to have you back.
Uh-huh.
He wants to have a follow-up. Anytime somebody like that says, let's do a follow-up, and in addition to that, Prairie, there's also a couple other large people in the pipeline right now that are in comms.
Yay.
Like large followings.
Cool. I love it.
Yeah.
I think there's a point to this because, Mando, I kind of know which ones you're talking about, and these relationships have actually been being built by like getting on the phone with these people. And like Banana just said, he got the second to spend 10 minutes with Cultivate Crypto just to talk with him. And I feel like if you are trying to like educate someone on the system, like maybe it's a good idea to say like, hey, do you want to jump in the Telegram? Maybe not the public, right? Like a private conversation. Like it's just a lot of information, and I would love to just spend 10 minutes with you. Like, and at the end of it, you don't have to do anything, right? But that's kind of where I feel like we've been having the best luck lately, is just trying to get them on the phone and just kind of educating them on what we've been doing over here.
That is the key, man. That has been the key with my conversations, and just so that y'all know, it's the education. It's the willingness to actually teach people the fundamentals that they don't know and they don't understand. Because once they know, once they see it, they can't unsee it. Once they've learned those creeds, kind of those chief cornerstones of not just this system, just the things in crypto. And I said it before, the reason why I love this ecosystem so much is because it forces people to get educated on the only metrics and key performance indicators that matter in crypto. They didn't even know this stuff before. All of a sudden, they're like, my gosh, Mando, Prairie, these people over here, they just taught me stuff that I didn't learn anywhere. And I've been staring at YouTube videos for freaking 3 years. And I learned it in 30 minutes.
I've learned a bucket ton about crypto in this ecosystem.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that there's a major appreciation when you take the time to just make a phone call with someone and just really you're not even pitching them. You're just saying, hey, look, do me a favor. Let me set the table. Let me ask you a couple questions so I can get a quick understanding of where you are, like what you actually understand. And then once you kind of know where they are, you just set the table for them and explain to them the fundamentals. Once you do that, there's just this massive thankfulness that happens. It's not a pitch. You're not pitching them on anything. You're sharing with them how things work. You're educating, and then you're just letting them know, hey, if you have any further questions, let us know. This is what's happening. Here's the chart. Here's the inverted chart. Here's the liquidity. This is why this works. Instead, what do you normally get out there? You just get gig of this, gig of that, Chad this, these stupid, classless, brainless sales pitches that, just like you said, Prairie, like cultivate. He's tired of that stuff. Everybody's tired of that stuff.
Yep, that's true. And I'm excited when I come back after next week. I have been consumed getting ready for next week, and I'm going to pick up where I left off on my list. I think I have 35 maybe people that some of them have engaged in a conversation, and some I have yet to reach out to. But the market, I hate to use the term deserves, but I'm going to use it. The market deserves to hear about these tokens because they're changing the game. And I think everybody should hold some of the index tokens over on the Pulse network, pTGC and UFO. By the way, UFO is 9% away from its previous all-time high.
Yeah, it's killing it, dude. The whole ecosystem is just crushing it.
And between Twitter and YouTube, there are almost 300 people watching. So thanks everybody for being here.
Yeah. Hey, Banana, you're kind of asking if anyone has any data points that you find interesting.
Mm-hmm.
There's one that I've liked recently that we've kind of been running through. We've been using this $10 million daily volume with a few examples recently, like we have your slide that we kind of talk about with the buy and burn, right?
Yes.
And then we also use that 10 million number when we use the APY calculator as well. Like if you've noticed that, like we're kind of using that number across the board in a few examples.
Yep.
And I like that because we are kind of looking at it in singular data points, but I would like to kind of, as a group, like think about it all together, right? Let's start with like the reflection size. And I'm going off of memory. I know this isn't exactly right, but if our volume got to 20 or 10 million a day in daily volume, what is that from here? That's roughly a 20x in volume, right? So that would be a conglomeration between PulseChain being a little successful with us being more successful, right? Like, let's say that's a 10 to 20x of PulseChain, right? A 10x or 20x of PulseChain, because our liquidity then would 10 to 20x. Our volume should naturally 10 to 20x. So let's say that puts us at this goal, right? Like this goal of $10 million in volume. Personally, I don't think this is a long stretch at all. I actually think this is very easily attainable with our system, right? And anyone can kind of add to this conversation if you think that's modest or it should be stepped down a little bit, but I'll just keep going if no one disagrees.
No, that is absolutely, I would say that it's absolutely, I mean, if you try to project out, however many years 10 million in volume is nothing. in reality. It could easily do that.
Especially with the systems design, with getting the volume from market makers, not just human interaction. The volume of the PulseChain network has to flow through us. I think it's actually very, very easily attainable, easier than people think. But currently, right now, it's roughly a 20x away. UFO is almost at $1 million of volume today. pTGC is a little bit under half a million. But let's just, for example, it's roughly a 20x away. So what I kind of pay attention to is, well, what we've done in the past, Banana, is like for pTGC, let's say staking or UFO just holding, what's the APY on that? I believe it was around, was it 50 if you're a pTGC holding and staking and locking? Was it around 50% APY or 60?
I
will have to look it up on my slides. So give me a minute.
With 10 million in volume, it was more than that.
It would be on look into pTGC.
Oh,
it would
okay.
be on your slide.
Okay.
So maybe while I'm talking, you could kind of pull that up and put it to 10 million, and you could give me the numbers.
23%.
23%. So we actually have found if you're staked and locked, you're earning roughly 20 or 200% more than that. So
well, let me interject the numbers. If you're staked, 165% more. If you're locked, 230% more.
Okay, and then that's locked out 10 years. So for example,
yes.
Let's just say you're locked out 90 days. It would be roughly 200% more. So you would be earning roughly 60% APY. These are rough numbers, everyone, just bear with me. So in this example, you're earning 60% APY. You can do the math of what position you are looking to hold. If you want to try to get to a whale, if you want to try to get to a shark, a dolphin, or smaller. But it's roughly 60% APY at that $10 million volume. But more importantly, while you're receiving 60% APY, what's happening with both protocols is they're generating $500,000 a day in revenue. $500,000 a day each. So you multiply $500,000 by 365, and that's $182 million of value being generated in the system. Yes, a portion of that is going to the APY that you're receiving. That's your 60% APY. But divided by 2, let's say that was, because let's say the DAO was doing buy and burns, and the buy and burn that's automatically written within the code, etc. That would be $91 million of buy and burns happening every single year, while you're earning 60% APY in that asset. When you really zoom out, there isn't anything out there doing $91 million of buybacks and burns. I don't know of any system that operates that way. This system has yet to get there, right? But we can project what that actually could turn out to be in the future. But $182 million in revenue being generated, and you are an owner of that and being paid 60% APY in that asset. And that's just one. If you owned both, you would be getting roughly $400 million of revenue being generated if you include both pTGC and UFO together, if they both were doing $10 million in revenue.
Can you?
And again, like that 10 million in volume daily, I don't think that's a stretch. I actually believe it's easily obtainable with a successful pulse chain.
Can you explain what burnt liquidity actually means and how it brings value to pTGC?
Yeah, so a lot of systems out there, they don't have burnt liquidity. So either the project itself, the protocol provided some of the initial liquidity and that's it, or users of the protocol provide liquidity. If it's users that are providing liquidity, that's their liquidity. That's their PLP tokens. They can come and go as they please. That liquidity doesn't need to stay there forever. So let me use a basic example. Let's say Shiba Inu. Shiba Inu's DEX liquidity, let's say, was 50% supplied by the protocol and 50% supplied by the community. Well, one day, let's pretend the community woke up and said, I don't want to provide liquidity anymore. I've made my X's, I've made my gains, I want to cash out. Well, within seconds, the community could just take that liquidity and go. It's their money. It's not the protocol's. So next thing you know, you wake up and it's actually half the amount of liquidity in the system that you thought. And even with protocols, like a lot of times a protocol will not want that much liquidity there, or maybe it's not meant to be there forever. You don't know what all protocols have in mind. Like obviously 99% of stuff is just rug pulls, right? So obviously not good intentions is my point. So with pTGC, pretty much I would say it's over 95% of all the liquidity is protocol owned. And of that 95%, I would say it's close to 70% of it is burned. So the PLP tokens are actually sent to the debt address to never be removed again. So no one can actually take that liquidity from you besides the people who own the pTGC token. They can sell into the liquidity pool and take, the RH tickers out, but no one can actually close the liquidity pool down. It's there for the rest of the existence of PulseChain.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. So let me just add to that. So the concept of burning liquidity is a concept of, you can either provide liquidity for a protocol that's deployed and just it's there and it's actually owned by someone, or sometimes teams will provide liquidity and then they'll lock it in a smart contract. So they'll actually send the PLP token to a smart contract that says, okay, we're going to lock it for 1 full year, so we can't do anything with it for a year. And then the highest level of security is that protocol or those people or whoever add the liquidity. It's just real capital. It's real money being added into the liquidity pools. And then they burn the PLP token or the access or the claim check to remove it. So what's happening here is this system is constantly generating millions of dollars a year in revenue. It's generating billions and billions and billions of pulse per month in revenue. And then that revenue is literally being used to buy up pTGC, buy up PulseChain, buy up Hex, buy up PulseX, buy up blue chips. It's going into the liquidity pool. And then that capital that's been injected into the liquidity pool, the claim check to remove it is sent to the 369 debt address where no one can ever remove it. So what's actually happening in layman's terms is that the system is generating millions of dollars of revenue, of real capital, and then injecting it into the liquidity pools and then throwing away the key, which basically just means that it's being given to the token holders of pTGC. The capital is literally being given to the community. And the only people that can remove or extract the value that's constantly being given are people who are holding the pTGC tokens.
Electric Buddha, thanks you guys for that thorough answer.
It's what makes pTGC very unique, guys, is that the system it's protocol owned liquidity. It's the liquidity is owned by the token holders. And that's why when Zen was saying earlier, if you want a part of this phenomenal mechanical tokenomic system, this revenue generating amazing mechanics, the only way to participate in the revenue generation that's taking place is to own the tokens.
Well, and then like the thing also that we can think about is it's kind of like what you kind of need to also look out like and zoom from above. Like I know what it is today, right? But what will it be in the future too? And this is kind of like even looking at a company, like if someone offered you to get stock in a company and you're like, well, this company is this size today, but I actually believe in 10 years, this company will be this. And I'm getting this stock at this price now, but I own that percentage of the company now. And, you know, these are just tokens, but you're technically owning shares of the circulating supply, and you can lock them in before the system has actually even turned on. Because, yeah, the system's running absolutely amazingly. Like, look at UFO today, it's generated $50,000 in revenue. But, and that's kind of that value that's being generated is actually giving UFO a price and human interaction. But who's to say, you know, a year from now, the system could be generating $500,000 with the $10 million of daily volume that we're kind of talking about. And what would that give the price of the UFO token? Well, the only way you actually get to be part of that is by owning the tokens. And you can actually own the tokens today and kind of look out into the future of like what you actually think you own, right? Because you can see it growing on itself. Kind of like how you see you could get into a company early because you can see where it's going to be when as it evolves and grows, right? But the only way you can participate and be part of it is by owning it, and you have to buy it. And the interesting thing about when you buy it is you're putting your PLS or, you know, HEX into the liquidity pools, right? And you're getting the token out in return. But now that revenue is put to work. In a normal system, the revenue is just sitting in that, like, kind of like a cash register for people to go in and out. Like, it's just there as a pot for users to come in and out of the system. But with this system, when you enter the system, the revenue that you put into the system is instantly working for the system. So it's adding to the paying out of APY. It's adding to the buy and burn of the price in the value generation system. And that's the goal, is we have a huge community whose all their value is actually getting pulled together in a decentralized manner, and that value is working for all of us, not only for our own APYs, but for the sustainability and the price appreciation of the token itself. It's such a, like, when I get on that rant and I start saying it out loud, it's like such a powerful system when you think about it, that there's just this group of people that are coming together all around the world, like that, like at some point we know each other, but we know each other through the internet, and we're putting our revenue in this decentralized swap in a way, and we found a way to earn revenue off of this. And when we come in with this revenue and our system puts money into this system and everyone's value is actually working for each other as a community, it's super powerful. Like I don't even know anything like it that exists.
Where are we at?
2 hours.
$260 million market cap. Almost 261 on pTGC, and almost 86. It's always Coach. He's sitting there ready with one button. You know, it's so funny. It's so funny. That's such a nostalgic sound. It reminds me of Atari back with toys. Seriously.
You just dated yourself, Vic, and me too.
I was Atari, man, with a stick.
Yeah. I was wondering where I recognized that sound.
You guys are that age, man. Give me the emojis, man. You know. Oh my God, that's so classic. Those were the good old days.
Yeah. We didn't have one, but my buddies did. All right. Did this suddenly become a call-in show?
What a concept.
I have a question. Does anyone know how much PLS the DAO wallet had currently? I see on the website that like another 94 million's up there for grabs for vote, but how much does the actual like on have sitting in it currently? That's another thing I always try to factor too. Is like if somebody sells, the DAO has hundreds of millions of PLS to add to LP and buy and burn on almost any given day now, which is kind of crazy.
It has 94 million right now.
No, what he's asking is what's pending. Right now, pending in the next 7 days, I think it's 1.6 billion PLS is coming out for use.
Yeah, that's a big number. I remember a lot of the guys up here. I remember when the first like billion PLS was saved up, and that was like a huge milestone. And now you're saying you have 1.6 billion pending, plus another 94 million already accrued in the past 24 hours, which is just.
Well, there's another over 400 already in the DAO. And there's also another almost 63 million pTGC already owned by the DAO, ready to go into LP. That the DAO grabbed at a $96 million market cap.
1.6 billion PLS is $85,000.
So this is another concept that we haven't even talked about that you just brought up.
Yeah, because essentially, that's $86,000 value. But if you add in, if somebody wants to sell, they get hit with that 5% fee, which effectively goes back to the project. Somebody could sell 100,000, and that gets totally wiped out and neutralized by 85,000 of the DAO holds. Not even people who are sidelined or not in even any other value. That's what's crazy. That's why you don't really see sustained dips, because the DAO can just buy it all up, buy you out of your position.
Yeah, and individuals know that once they capitulate, they've lost that position at this point. Unless there's a black swan thing that happens where they could capitulate and then buy back in cheaper, which it's not been happening. So, they take the end stake hit for the 1%, then they take the 5% hit to sell. So pretty much when people decide to sell, in their mindset, they've decided I'm okay with relinquishing this. Right? Because that's the only mindset you can take, to be frank. But when you've got 1.6 billion, you've got 400 million in the DAO, you've got almost 70 million pTGC waiting for LP, and it just keeps on the actual amount of revenue that's being generated. It continues to ramp up, right? So the reality is people are like, well, the system's just going to buy me out, and then it's just going to keep going on without me. So that's what I was talking about earlier, Nick. That's the conundrum for the remaining people who even have a 1% position in the thing. It's like, they don't want to relinquish it because they know how the system works.
Yeah, one thing to keep in mind too, Nick, is that the DAO I'd say the last 6 months or more has been mainly focused on LP ads. Obviously, just building LP at these low levels. But once PulseChain kind of leaves the station, like let's say it goes up to sack rate, right? And the 30 million in liquidity we have today is now 60 million, or let's say even more. Well, at like what point do we kind of say like, okay, we know where the system's going. Let's cool off on the LP ads and let's do buy and burns now. Buy and burn, buy and burn, buy and burn, buy and burn. Like the fact that we've been focusing on LP has actually been giving users an entry position that they might have been looking for and they don't even know, because we haven't been doing the buy and burns. We've been focusing on LPing. But once the system goes back to buy and burns, well, then that obviously helps with price appreciation and buying sell-offs even more.
And the fact is,
included yet. and the price is still obviously at all-time highs.
Exactly right. Like the fact that the price appreciation has just been so phenomenal. It's like you have people in the TG, oh, what are you going to do? Buy and burns. What are you going to do? Buy and burns, buy and burns, buy and burns. I'm like, are you looking at the same chart that I'm looking at? Like, you got the system adding so much beautiful, sweet liquidity and burning it into the system, and the chart is just printing without the buy and burn.
Yeah, for those people, I would just share the lookintoptgc.com website, and they can just look at the free dashboard, because it's really awesome to go on here, and without the Dow doing buy and burns, there's 13,000 in pTGC that's been burnt in the past 24 hours. Then if you go to UFO's burnt another $10,000 worth of pTGC in the past 24 hours. Then if you go look at other amplifier tokens, they burnt another couple $1,000 worth of pTGC in the past 24 hours. So it's like, without the Dow even really focusing on buy and burns, there's 5 figures of pTGC burnt every 24 hours, no matter what the volume is.
Yeah, and like what you were talking about before about liquidity, like, isn't it amazing that you have all this buying and burning actually happening now, but all of the revenue that's being generated is literally just being handed to the token holders in the form of liquidity, which is everything, right? I mean, what better situation could you have?
Well, it's particularly nice for our system that the liquidity is actually working for us and adding to that buy and burn also. Because, obviously the double-sided sword is as we grow, right, our liquidity is going to get super, super big, to where a lot of people think like, oh, well, it's going to be hard to pump. And it's just like, well, has it been hard to pump? Has it been hard? Like, some say we have tons of liquidity right now, and it obviously doesn't seem like it's been hard to pump.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because this liquidity is working for us. It's not just sitting in there making it difficult to pump. It's actually pumping itself mechanically. So what they're looking at is obviously old DeFi, old protocol mindset, like, oh, it's going to be hard to get humans to bring their money in and pump it because there's so much liquidity there. It's like, well, guys, this whole system is to be not human dependent. The humans come because it's not dependent on them, which makes that more sustainable and secure for a human interaction, right? Like, we want to know that the machines are working with us instead of against us, and then they come naturally. But the more liquidity that we put there is the more mechanically driven buy and burns that happen autonomously. And then plus, the other side of that is there's tons of revenue for if anyone does want to take profits, it doesn't hurt the chart.
Mm-hmm.
My interesting metric, Prairie, is looking at the amount of liquidity that's left to even be bought, like this 5.4 billion coins, is the velocity of percentage that the price goes up. Like, let's just say 400 million coins comes out, right? I think 400 million coins right now is worth like 400 grand or something.
Very close.
It feels like the velocity of the percentage go up, like price go up, is going to be squared as that available token float diminishes. And do you understand the nature of the question?
Well,
Like,
it's really, really hard to buy those last tokens.
Yeah,
It'll keep pushing the
that's what I
price up. Yeah, it's really hard to get down to that last 1% supply, because it will just keep ratcheting the price up infinitely till obviously you're bringing in large lump sums of money and getting very, very small portions of the supply, which is kind of a unique situation, because normally that then usually pushes the value that's in people's wallets back into the liquidity pool because they're up on value, right? And this is an option, obviously. But what's unique is these people who have this value in their wallets that value is now working for them, and they're earning APY off of these assets in a fully deflationary token. So a lot of them are not making the decision to push those tokens back into the liquidity pools because they might never get them back. And if they like what they have as far as like their initial and there's just like what they have already and they don't really want to let that go, then they're not going to let it go. You know, I think they will take profits with, you know, maybe a portion or with the APY. And this is not frowned upon in this ecosystem because obviously when they enter that liquidity pool, that does give a new person the opportunity to get them because there's just not a lot and there will never be any more, right? It's not like in like scarcity drives value. And you can look at scarce things in this world. And for an example, gold, right? Gold is scarce, gold has value. But they mine gold every day. They're mining gold constantly. It's not deflationary. It is an inflationary asset as they find it. It's just that you have to work for it, right? And you have to mine it out of the ground and whatnot, or diamonds, you know, whatsoever, these things that have value. There isn't a lot of real assets that are actually deflationary, like legitimately deflationary. The only thing like property, right? Property, there is a set amount of land, and more importantly, there's a set amount of land like in prime locations on the coast. What they normally do is just build other cities and make that prime locations, and they make like the city like lively and like, and that kind of is their inflationary idea to it, is they can just make more cities and make more locations like worth value. But there really isn't, but that's still not deflationary, right? It's not decreasing. They actually kind of increase that as well. But what I'm getting at is they're scarce. It's scarce to have ideal property, good locations. Even gold is scarce, but not, it's inflationary. Also diamonds, luxury cars, they're making a quantity every single year. They keep it under a limit if they want it to have value because scarcity drives value. But what things out there actually are hyper deflationary? Do you know of really any, Amanda?
Not anything that's real. No, PulseX to me is real, but it's deflationary. It's not hyper deflationary. It's definitely deflationary.
I would put PulseX under hyper deflationary.
I guess so, because there's no supply. There's no new supply. Yeah, like PulseChain and Ethereum, I'd put it under deflationary.
Yeah, but
even obviously,
like maybe not even crypto related assets. Like, can you think of any like assets that are hyper deflationary?
No.
Yeah, the only thing I can kind of think of is maybe like stocks that are doing like huge buybacks within the company.
Property in the Palisades.
Stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, it's not really deflationary, right? It's just a set supply.
I was being facetious, but dude, let me transition this real quick, because I'm looking at, I think this is very interesting, man. If you even want to buy the tokens right now, bro, it's like, I'm on PulseX right now, and you have to buy like in diminishing amounts, right? You can't just go in there and buy 400 million pTGC tokens in one clip. It won't even let you do it. You have to go and, you know, figure out how many you can take out, and then you're obviously pushing the price against yourself by quite a bit. So even the amount of tokens on the float available in the pools now, you have to, like, you know, unless I'm seeing this wrong, you really are gonna. I don't even know how to explain what I'm seeing right now. If you want to buy, let's just say $80,000 worth of tokens right now. The price impact's 3.5%. Obviously, there's a 5.5% fee. So you're going to push the price up 3.5%. You're going to pay the fee, and about $82,000 will buy you about 100 million coins right now. From seeing that, what it says to me is that unless some larger players are willing to push tokens back into the pools, we're going to see a massive explosion on the price, man.
Well, and
please correct me if I'm wrong, but like when you go to PulseChain right now and you try to buy, you're having to push the price against yourself pretty damn hard to get any large amount.
Well, and you have to think about it like this: is that kind of puts the price in the hands of the community, right? Like if no one wants to even put their tokens on the market, they can actually kind of set the price of their tokens, because then the price will just keep pushing upwards, which then makes what they own actually even more valuable, which even makes their APY even more. Because then anyone that gets brought into the system kind of has to just buy it at the market rate. And more importantly, the code has to buy it at the market rate, what the market is setting that price at. And it's just extremely powerful. It just kind of really shows that like a community can actually push things in the direction that they want to push it if everyone sees these tokens as still undervalued as far as what the system is worth.
Well, gentlemen.
Yeah. So, like, let me just say this. So, a 300 million pulse buy, which is about 16 grand, that's at a 1% price impact. If you do 600 million pulse, it's 1.38. If you do a billion pulse buy right now, which is $52,000, the price impact, oh my goodness, it's 2.28% for 65 million coins. These coins are becoming like gold, like gold, platinum, palladium, rare earth metals wrapped up into one, Zen.
Well, and that's what I was kind of getting at is with even gold is inflationary. They mine gold every day. This asset is only got that much left in the market, and it's decreasing with every single transaction. And that has to be spread. That has to be shared amongst the whole world.
I think that we're going to get I think that this is just me talking. This is just us talking. By the way, none of this is advice. None of this is anything. It's just talking. I think that if we can get Richard's core coins to revalue themselves at like a 4 to 5x from here, it's going to give an opportunity that will allow people to buy again without pushing the price against themselves so hard. It will revalue the liquidity web, right? But after that, if there's no entry there for you at that, like almost instant revaluation, it just looks to me like, I don't even want to say anything else. I got to put my mind to what I'm seeing on this right now. This is the first time I've actually realized that there's just not a lot of tokens left.
Well, that's what I was saying is, tell me an asset in the real world, like a store of value that gold, Bitcoin's even somewhat inflationary in a way, even though I know it's a set amount that comes out. But what I'm saying is, like, tell me a store of value that actually operates in a hyper deflationary manner with only that much on the market, with demand actually waiting on the sidelines to buy whatever comes to the market alongside, and this is the important feature, the code that operates mechanically that is going to buy it at whatever price is left in the liquidity pools, and the market maker is giving the price obviously to the tokens. It don't care. It's going to buy today, like Nick was saying. It's bought in, I think he said 13K worth of pTGC and burned it today. Like, it's going to buy tomorrow. It's going to buy the next day. It doesn't care. The code is a whale that will buy pTGC for every single day for the rest of the existence of PulseChain at whatever market price we give it.
So what I'm trying to do, and it's because I can't do it because I don't have enough PLS in one specific wallet, but I'm trying to find out where PulseX won't allow me to make a buy at a specific threshold of pulse, right? So,
Or you're going to just push the slippage up on yourself to infinite, is what you're saying.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just like,
because you'll just push the price up against yourself, just like any huge whale would, to, like you're saying, 3%, 5%, 10%, 20%, 30%, 50%, like 75%. Like, that's all that's going to happen. Because you can never get all those tokens out. It'll just keep ratcheting the price up against whoever is buying.
Yeah. So 1.5 billion essentially ratchets the price up against you by 3.25%. And 3 billion, which is 158,000, is 6.48%. So for people who are looking to enter, who are looking at this is why they're hoping for a dip. Because they're going, God, I want to get a bag, but if I just want to put 158,000 in the thing, I'm paying the 5% fee to get in, and I'm ratcheting the price up against myself 6.5%.
Yeah, and then if they even want to get more than that, it just ratchets up more, right? Like,
wow.
There's only so many tokens. And obviously what happens, Mando, this is what happens is, someone ratchets the price up, then someone sells it down, and then maybe that person ratchets back up, and then someone sells it down. This is kind of naturally what happens. The bids and asks kind of bounce up and down. But there can be levels where people or community members are just like, I actually think this system is supposed to be valued 10 times what it is today. I'm not saying that's going to happen right away, but, what if no one said, you know what, I don't want to sell at this level. I do believe this product is worth 10 times more than this. And, well, then the contract's going to buy at whatever price the community gives it. And anyone else who wants to own part of this machine, like we're talking about today, is $30 million in liquidity. It generates roughly, I think, today it's generated probably $70,000 in revenue in just the last 24 hours. But you're owning part of not what the machine is today, but what the machine could be in 6 months, right? In a year, in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever your time horizon is, you can actually get your percentage of the supply today at whatever price the market is giving it. But you actually own more of the percentage of the business, if you want to call it that, in the future, because the supply is ever decreasing. And when the system revalues, the product revalues. But there's only so many percent of the supply on the market. That's the thing.
This is insane. I gotta go. Guys.
I'm gonna wake my wife up and make her go to pinball.
Yeah. Really, really, really awesome conversation we've just had here.
Yeah.
Guys, really, please look into ptgc.com and, jump in the Telegram if you're new, if you have questions. This is obviously, everything can go to zero. You can lose all your money. None of this was advice. None of this is forward looking. It's all just theoretical information. Do your own research, do your own due diligence, do your own everything. But this is a very interesting cryptocurrency ecosystem on a very interesting blockchain. And wow, there's not a lot of this left.
Yeah,
you guys have a good Saturday.
You too, man. No, thanks for coming up. Thanks for chatting. Nick, hey, thanks for coming up, man, and adding to the conversation. I feel like today you added so much good stuff. So I just really appreciate you coming up and chatting with us.
Yeah, of course. And try to tune in next time and see what the conversation is.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you. Banana, thank you for co-hosting. Coach, thanks for coming up as well.
Yes, and thank you for being here. It was a very good spaces today. I'm gonna listen to it. There's Coach going out with a bang.
I had to. All right, guys. See you guys later.
See you, Coach. I guess we'll see you then. Yeah, he's gone. Man, that was a great spaces guys. And I'm gonna put this on my streaming. I gotta get used to this. So I will be having an AMA. If you guys are new to the Grays ecosystem, I will be having an AMA. I will actually be presenting my Panama presentation. So hopefully I don't steal any thunder from Panama, but at least in Panama, if you see it tomorrow and you're in Panama, you'll see it live. And I think it'll be more impactful live. I'm excited about it, but I want the Grays community to see it. So tomorrow I have it ready. I'm just going to record it, clip it, put it on my channel. And I'm planning to do that tomorrow. And that will be at 2 p.m. Pacific. Now, to answer your question, Bets, if you're still listening, what are the global metrics from all protocols buying and burning UFO and pTGC collectively? I don't know that answer, but I don't believe that it is near as much as pTGC and UFO. Either of them probably. I am not sure. I would like to know that. That's an important metric. I do know that UFO is burning about 2.5 times more pTGC than pTGC itself, which is pretty awesome. Nobel Prize worthy tokenomics. Yes, I agree. And I think that's not the first time I've heard that. 309 people in here. Wow, thank you so much. Are there any other questions? Unique invention in crypto. Yeah, man, invention. Do a dry run. I've done several bets. I did the first one I did was in front of my wife, and she taught all of our kids speech and debate. They were in a national group, and they all did very well. And she was a regional director, so she taught kids, teenagers how to speak publicly. And you should watch these kids. So I sat in my dining room and ran through it with my wife, and she said it went really well. She gave me a few pointers. But I was really encouraged after that because, I mean, she knows how to teach. Thank you so much, Firefighting 82. It's about time I moved my DJ and plays into getting more Grays coins. I did a little bit of moving around in December because it finally hit me how the Grays are moving up against everything on the Pulse network. Yeah, guys. Speaking about moving, I got to get my butt moving to some work. So 300. I think that's a record. Let's do that more often. Here we go. I think we will see more and more protocols building and buying and burning in UFO and pTGC into other protocols to assist. The more, the better. I think we're going to see more, dude. We are the elephant in the room. And when builders understand what is here, they are going to want to build on it. Does it not go without saying? And it has already been built on. I can think of probably 5 to 8 projects that have already built on pTGC. So Yay, man. FOMO pants, man. It's hard not to put your FOMO pants on. Guys, vets, we'll see you on Wednesday at least, maybe at the dinner on Tuesday. And everybody else, AMA tomorrow. And have a great weekend, guys. Over and out.